Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Financial Fitness Masterclass for today. It's exactly 2015, 8:15 p.m., and I trust everyone is doing well. So we'll just get started. And as usual, I would like to hear what's your money stories for the week. What was your relationship with money like within the week? What did you learn about the economy? And then if you own a business, what did you learn about your business? Because like I've told us, we are making this a community of conversation. That's the best way we can maximize the knowledge available in this room. And then I hope that we've all had the opportunity to look at the video that was posted in the group, because we're going to have some very powerful conversations around it as well.
Yeah, I just bought the books. I think one is about the Nigerian,
Stock exchange.
yeah, how to invest and earn in the Nigerian stock exchange. And I bought the second one. I haven't looked at that. I started reading that first one. Then
Right.
I bought I think investment for the busy professional. So
Okay.
and that's
Yeah.
what the topic. Yeah,
Financial,
those were the
financial.
two. Those,
Yeah.
Yes, so those were the two I bought.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm gone and I'm on to I think about page 31 or so. Yeah, well, I've been in an all-day program today, so if not, I should have with the speed with which I was reading, I should have finished.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so even though yeah, I know maybe a little or I know just a broad knowledge, but it's good to deepen my knowledge and some of the things I really didn't know. So and it's good, it was just quite really very interesting to read,
Right.
the kind of book very easy for anyone to be able to read and understand. We actually enjoy reading, so it's not really technical in any way, so anybody can pick it and really learn. So more like a storybook, so which you
Yeah.
pick and you just want to keep reading. If not, that something very important pulled me off it.
Right.
So that's one thing. So I just know that in life, education is a continuous process. So well,
Absolutely.
I'm glad I'm learning new things. So and even at the end to the question and answer, even though they appear very cheap, but really to help you tax your brain, think about what you have read again and all that. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you for letting us know that. The financial freedom for every busy professional. Actually, wrote two books almost immediately after I left Shell. So the first one was the financial freedom for busy professional. At that time, the problem was if you found 100 books on personal finance or financial intelligence in the library of any Nigerian, 99 of them were written by Westerners. They were written by particularly Americans. You had the Robert Kiyosaki's of this world, you had Brian Tracy, John Maxwell, all those favorite authors, Suzo Man, Dave Ramsey, and all those things. But then what I discovered was while their books were really amazing, the concepts were very difficult, for our people to grasp at that time. Those books, for instance, would talk about 401k or 401k. They will talk about mortgage. They will talk about foreclosures. They will talk about all those things, credit card, challenges. As at that time, and possibly even now, those concepts were very unrelatable to our people in this part of the world. And so I saw a very deep gap, of helping our people to consume basic financial wisdom in stories and narratives that they were very relatable, that they could relate to. And that first book was forwarded by Professor Patu Tomi, and he really loved it. And so the book became instant success for a lot of people because it addressed the issues around money. in language that Africans can understand. And since then, we've done three prints of the book. We're out of print of that one right now. So that's why you can only find the ebook version. So thank you for sharing with us around that. All right, let's share what we're gonna do tonight. How many of us, by just raise your hand digitally if you watched the short video that I shared in the group just before? How many of us watched it? Yeah, just raise your hand or just say yes in the chat. Okay, Nadid. Right, just a couple of other hands. Okay, not a lot of us, because Victor also did. Okay, let's do that. Okay, so for those of us who watched it, so just before we bring Victor in, what were the things that what stood out for you? What particular quotes, what did he say that kind of strongly resonated with you? You can type in the chat, or if you would like to speak, you can raise your hand and then unmute and then speak. What one thing struck you, resonated the most with you?
Okay, good evening.
Yeah. Go for it. Yeah.
Good evening.
Yeah, good evening. Nina, go ahead.
Okay, so I think one thing was that I shouldn't carry, let's say, a bag of 4,000, meanwhile I have 100 naira in the bag. I think he was just trying to say that we should try to invest or have a business, not just owning things, let's say a bag that is very costly or a phone that is costly, meanwhile you don't have enough cash with you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Does anybody else relate to that? And then in our society, is this something that is it something that anyone has noticed in our society? Like people having a $5,000 bag with $100 in it, and in what ways do these things show up in our society around us? Either yourself, because we also learn from our mistakes. Has anybody here made that kind of mistake, or you've seen people around you, who are in that situation?
Okay. I think, let me just use the exact word that he used to, that stood out for me, just to illustrate what she has said. For him, he said the goal is to actually be it, not to appear to be it. So basically, why look rich when you are not rich? I think that summarizes it. And I will use one personal experience, even though for me, I could afford it, but I've never been moved by those things. I tell you, I bought the Samsung S22 when it came out initially, over ₦1 million, but I've always been a Samsung person. But unfortunately, the circle where I go to, the people intentionally or not intentionally, subconsciously, they look at the phone that you carry. And for me, I said I wasn't ready to impress anybody, but I noticed that the people, but these are the settings of the people who could afford it. I can afford it. I can, in fact, after the particular incident, I just walked into Samsung and I bought the phone. And again, the problem is I haven't used the features of that phone beyond phone calls, SMS, WhatsApp. So all of that investment it's 80 or 90% of the features of that phone is lying dormant.
Right.
So, but for me, I can afford it.
Right.
But for the bulk of people, they are using gadgets. They are appearing rich when they are not rich. So the goal is not to appear rich, but to actually be rich.
Okay.
Unfortunately, society looks out for those flashy things. And I don't know.
Unfortunately. And I want to speak to that before I call happiness up. So this morning during my devotion, I was reading the incident with Paul, the apostle. It's a documented historical incident. They had a shipwreck and found themselves in, I believe it was the island of Malta. And it was cold, it was winter. So they made fire, and Paul went to gather some sticks to put in the fire. And as he did, a viper, which is a very poisonous animal, very poisonous snake, bit his hand, clung to his hand. And then instantly, the villagers who were there listening, they started saying, this man is a murderer. This man is a murderer, that he escaped shipwreck. And here he is, a snake is coming, is biting him. So according to them, it's like Nemesis is catching up with this man. They called him particularly a murderer. Now, they stood by and said, okay, let's watch what's going to happen to him. He's going to swell up, because that's what used to happen in that community. When people were bitten by that poisonous snake, they swelled up and then died. So these same people were waiting. They waited for, we don't know how long, they waited for Paul to swell up and then fall down and die. He didn't. Within that same space of 30 minutes, 1 hour, they said, oh, okay, maybe he's not a murderer. He is a god. These same people. So many of us actually live our lives based on other people's opinion. It is so fickle. And people live our lives based on how they want other people to perceive them in the neighborhood and all that they are rich, that they have arrived. And I do not know why in the world, people do that. But that is one major reason that people stay poor. And like Victor said, people buying things that they can't afford just to look the part. I have had people, like I told that story in my book, as far back as when GSM came, and then we're using all these Nokia, these Nokia phones. At that time, smartphones weren't a thing. And then when smartphones came, because all I was doing with it was just like you, make a phone call, send a chat, receive a phone call at that time. And then I go to places, and then people are saying, oh, I remember a particular place, somebody said, oh, but this phone does not fit you. And I'm like, who are you to determine the phone that fits me? Say, this phone does not fit you. Go and whatever. And I used that phone until they stole it before I was able to now buy a smartphone. And so many of us are carrying 1.52 million naira phones, because iPhone 15 right now, I don't know how much it is, but iPhone 15, which a lot of people have rushed to go and buy, it's probably at the current dollar rate, it's probably not less than $1 million to 1.5 million, if not more than that. If somebody has it in the group, you can tell us, how much it is now. But people buy those, and then they never scratch like 5% of it. So I have 11, and it's enough. It's doing all the work I do, because I do a lot of work, and all that. So it's actually working. And I've not even finished working with the 11. 12 came out. Before, I have not bought 12, 13 came out, 14 has come out, 15 has come out. And then people continue to spend money, buying every new thing and all that, not imagining the long-term impact that such consumption actually has on your financial well-being, because people are not able to connect it. They have the 1.5 million, so they just buy it. But they are not able to tell the opportunity cost of buying a phone for 1.5 million naira today. They're not able to tell the impact of that choice, that decision, that buying decision, even though they have the money, they're not able to tell the impact in another 5 years, in another 20 years, had they made a different choice than doing that. Okay, so Happiness, let's hear from you. And then after that, Ngozi. Happiness?
All right. Good evening, everyone. It's such a privilege to be here once again. I don't know if, sir, I don't know if you still remember the I'm going to take on blogging today, because I got prepared, but I never got to reach out to you within the week because I had a very tight schedule. So I'm ready if the time is accorded me. I'm ready to go.
Okay.
So that said, I have a friend who, there was this rig that capsized a few weeks back. I think that was 2 months ago. In was it Delta State? I think Benin or Delta thereabout. A friend of mine was there. He was working like the technician on site, helping them with the network connections. There was a story he recounted to me about a Nigerian who was there in the rig, who was working also with them, who, he was able to make it out because they lost about 4 persons there, and that incident. He was able to make it out, but he remembered he had his iPhone 13 Pro Max or whatever. And he went back in to quickly go grab it and didn't make it out again.
Oh, no.
So that story
no.
shook
Are you
me.
sure?
Yes, I am. I'm sure.
Oh,
very, very sure. He went back to quickly grab the phone, and he couldn't come out because that friend of mine was able to save one of the expatriates working on that rig as well. He helped the man. He threw in a rope, and the man was able to use that rope to come out. And someone actually lost his life because of a phone he got for 1 point something million thereabout. And it shows us how I don't know, materialistic we have become in this very time. People having just having to get gadgets just to meet up societal quote unquote.
Right.
that not take such a risk just because of the phone. I mean,
right.
It just made me start reevaluating a lot of things.
Absolutely.
I remember one of my colleagues once told me that he will never use a phone. He can't replace the same day he lost it.
Oh
He
my.
will never use a phone. He can't replace the same day he lost it. So
thank
you very much.
Okay, thanks for that. Before Ngozi comes up, there's a quote. I don't remember if it is 50 cents. I do not remember, but 50 cents did have some, amazing quotes. So he said, if you cannot buy it twice or something like that, so you can't afford it, something like that. And so when people use the entire life savings, because there's the principle that where your treasure is, that's where your heart is going to be. And I am very certain that this is not the first time something like this is happening, that somebody is losing his life or her life because of, an object like that. Of course, we know the familiar one in history. Remember Lot's wife? It's just Lot's wife had iPhone 15. She had her MacBook Pro. She had all those, very special Louis Vuitton shoes and handbags and all that. So it was difficult, too. And so when anything becomes a god, because that's really what that phone was to him, that God in small g had to draw him back to fire to, so I'm sure it's not the first time things like that are happening, but that also proves the fact that poverty sometimes is not the absence of money. It's actually the choices that people make. Okay, Ngozi. And Happiness, yes, we'll bring you back after Victor. Victor's session. We'll bring you back so that yeah, you can share with us as we agree. Yeah, Ngozi.
Okay. From what I heard the man say, he made a point, which is that we are consumers instead of being the ones producing. And there are people that you ask for help to help the poor, not necessarily me needing the help, but people I will consider poor. We are all poor of some level, but so. And they will say to you, there's no money, the things are hard, the way they will talk, you literally believe them. Then they throw a party. And even if you wanted tortoise eye, it will be available to be eaten. The venue alone, when you're told the cost of the venue, you're wondering whether we are in the same country. And unfortunately for me, I would say, I get invited to these parties. I'm literally almost miserable sitting there because I'm looking at the system. When they say we are consumers, it's like China produces all sorts of rubbish. And I can say to all of you here, because I don't know who else is planning a party, all sorts of rubbish. For instance, in the parties that I attend, they will put the tablecloth, they will put the plate charger, they will put the plate, they will put the spoons, they will and then when it comes to serving, they take the plates and they go and bring a hot plate. All of those things, they charge for them. Then when they say they are giving gifts, all the rubbish that China has produced, most of them are useless. I actually attended one recently that I looked into the bag. There was not one thing that is useful. One funny things that cannot be used. Even the people I give them to, I wonder what they do with it. Because usually they don't get into my house. So what I'm saying is, what I got from there is not even the cost of the Louis Vuitton bag, because for you to even have $5,000 and think of putting it in a bag, who knows whether where you go for meetings, that's what will make them think you have the money, because that's what 419 is made up of. Appear to be rich, fake it until you make it. But then that's one class. But there's this class that they make the other people aim to be so wasteful. Talk of their Chevy. For anything and everything we are doing now, there's a Chevy. Even as at today, we are talking about the resources and all that, and they are not, if we are producing and buying from Nigeria, fine. But the challenge is that they are all imported from somewhere else. And there's the competition of this one is Swiss, and this one is Austria, and this one is, then the China ones are looked down on. Meanwhile, the China ones are also in that same market. So what I got from the video is a confirmation of my feeling that except that people know themselves, and begin to reevaluate themselves, they're not going to go anywhere. Like what we have currently staring us in the face. They say, oh, dollar is coming down. It's not coming down anywhere because we're not producing anything.
Right.
We're only consuming. We're only consuming. And what we may probably eventually have, because you see, we have acquired the taste for not only foreign things, but also things that look like some form of opulence. And then I pass my neighbor small, where we try to compete with each other. I see it as people in a toilet inside the pit. You don't even realize that you're inside the pit. You're busy looking for space inside the pit. The man said that the white people plan 3 generations ahead.
Mm-hmm.
They are not really very interested in showing off to the next person. They think of college fund. They think of all manner of things for
Mm-hmm.
their generations. And they are quite content with their simple meals.
Okay.
Our own, you never chop. You want to show off to your neighbor that you
Mm-hmm.
can buy whole chicken. So if we who are having this class begin to, in our own, it was expected that the religious people who are religious will be the ones bringing down moderation and sense of this, but no way. They just use the religion to powder the situation,
Mm-hmm.
and are doing much more than the others. So
Okay.
I want to say, look, listening to that was painful to my heart, because it's so true, but not just for the Black American, but the Nigerian aspect of it is
Right.
far worse, even today.
Right.
Because I wouldn't have believed. I attended a few ceremonies in the past 2 weeks, and there's no difference between now and 2010 in their, except in waste. The waste now is more, in spite of inflation.
Absolutely.
Thank you. That's what I think.
Thanks. And that's very powerful. And I think he said that there's a consumption class, and then there is the merchant class, and then we are mostly the consumption class. I mean, each time I look around me, like the desk where I am right now, I usually feel serious embarrassment that there's nothing I can point to here. Nothing at all I can point to here that was made in Nigeria. Nothing. And then if you look around, not even these pencils and pen. Okay, this water they bought today, but I can assure you that the raw materials that they used to make this mold, if they didn't mold it in China, that it's here. Nothing made here. And so dollar is coming down because they are patching it. They're just trying to patch the situation. But the only thing that can save the situation is production. So let's take 2 more insights from that video, and then we can have Victor. Victor, just get ready to make your presentation for like 10 minutes, and then we interact on what you tell us and ask questions. And then after that, we have Happiness, and then we can interact and ask questions. Then we will go back to what are the practical solutions. I see Arinze put in the chat that unfortunately, these habits of buying unnecessary but expensive things is a habit that cannot be changed at will. And I would like us to reflect on that statement and then leave this place with, okay, what are the solutions? What do we do about that situation? Because we can't keep on going like that. We can't. Because like he said in that video, by 2050, we'll be going back, 2053, we'll be going back to slavery, where we came from. Because I found that one significant thing he said about how can we be in a capitalist, I'm trying to find out the way he put it. It's in one of the slides, that, we are in a capitalist economy, and then we are trying to survive. You can't be in a capitalist economy or a capitalist demographic, and then you're trying to survive without money. It's not going to be possible. But the way we are going, and then he said that the white people plan for 3 generations, like you said, but we plan for the next Saturday night. And you're right, because even right here in Nigeria, in Lagos, you go to all the happening places in Lagos, you go to Nnewi, like somebody was telling me yesterday, you go to all these big billionaires are investing in nightclubs. And you go to Enugu, where I was, weekend like this, people are all over, they're jumping into that town, nightclubs everywhere. The investments that the big names, the big Anambra billionaire names you are hearing, the investments are in nightclub, hotels and nightclub. And it's a situation that all of us in this place need to actually start working on, because if we don't change the way we think as a people, starting with us as individuals, if we don't change that narrative of who a rich person is, what wealth is, it's going to affect us for generations. Okay, Yemi.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I think the video is kind of self-reflective, and I think it happens not just only to the poor, even to the rich. And I think I like what Mrs. Ngozi mentioned about that, in terms of looking at the party, and I think reflecting at everything that we do. I'll just give an example of those people, like, in terms of the top echelon, because most times we think poverty ends when we hand money, but it doesn't end there. In 2010, the government encouraged Nigerians to participate actively in the oil industry. And you have people who had the opportunity to borrow money to buy oil blocks. They borrowed the money, they bought the oil block, which is fantastic. And of course, cash flow was coming in. Right now, the situation we have there are cases of people who are even stealing their own crude in order not to pay the bank, or looking for a way not to pay money, return the money. And it's quite a shame, because if you can command up to $2 billion US in terms of loan, someone is able to give that to you. It means that if you can pay it back, you can even access higher amount. But the poverty mentality drives us to start sponsoring events, getting chieftaincy titles, buying a house in Ikoyi and everything, trying to impress that, yes, we've arrived, we're now at the top echelon of the society. But then what happens? Right now, we're talking about, as a country, we can't even produce. We're struggling to do 1.5 million barrels per day. These are the fundamental problems, because we are not doing things right. And this even boils down to education. Our students are happy to spend thousands of naira in beer parlor, instead of spending that amount of money in a book, or in something that would help them. And I think also, like you mentioned, in terms of the religion stuff, I think it was recent that something came to my mind, that miracle also is not instantaneous. Joseph was given the dream. It took him 18 years of real suffering. I know most times we read it and it's like it's 2 minutes, everything happened, but it was not 2 minutes work. Being in the prison, I'm sure it wasn't like our Kirikiri prison. It was worse than Kirikiri prison.
Right.
But he went all the way, and then became head of prison. And we all look at, focus on the one day that the king had to call him in, and then later on became the prime minister. But before he became that prime minister, there was a whole lot of work that he had to go through. So I think it's quite, I think and I think it's something that even as Christians, I think we need to reflect that sometimes the miracle also follows process, that God himself is also a God of wisdom too. Sometimes he allows processes to occur. He won't give you a child in a month's time. Even though he gives you the child, you have to carry the child for 9 months. He won't circumvent that process.
Okay. Thank you very much. And I like the perspective you brought into the conversation around being wealthy. So people mistake that for having cash. And I see that Charles asked a question in the chat, what is your thinking? What in your thinking does it mean to be rich and wealthy, respectively? Charles, of course, would like to hear your perspective first, and then, just kind of the context, where your question is coming from. But the being wealthy or being poor is actually something, first of all, of the mind. And when people, just a second, I'm not sure. Okay. So when people come by a lot of cash, we have a term for it in Nigeria. We say money misroad. So if people have cash, but they do not have the mentality to support that cash, it will go. Because wealth is, first of all, a mind thing, the way we think. And this is why a couple of years ago, when I was on TV, I challenged our people. I say, if everybody in Washington, D.C. moves to Makoko, the Makoko slum, here in Lagos, and then you move everybody in Makoko slum to Washington, D.C., in less than 5 years, the Makoko will become what Washington, D.C. is today. And in that same less than 5 years, the Washington, D.C. will become Makoko. So the problem isn't whether it's Makoko or Washington, D.C. The challenge is the people and the mindset of the people. Because if you look at it, poverty is also not the absence of resources. Like my Stanford executive director said a couple of years ago, said poverty is not the lack of resources. It's not. Nigeria has everything. I didn't even know until just last week that we also have, what's this mineral that Elon Musk needs so badly to? Is it lithium? I didn't even know that we had lithium in plenty supply in Nigeria. We've got everything. We've got tantalite, titanium. There's one they say that 1 kg is like $2,000 or something like that. We have all these things, plus the oil. We have everything, plus the land, plus the people.
Not up to 1 kg. It's like 1 pound of it. It's not up to 1 kg.
So
it's not
yeah, a gram. That is California.
It's California.
So
1 gram.
Oh, it's even a gram.
Gram, yeah.
There you go. We have all those. And as I'm talking to you, many of us here do not know. And I didn't know myself until just sometime last month that they published the images that the coal in Nigeria, in Enugu, has been constant, is still being mined by the Chinese. The Chinese people have coal mines in Enugu. They are exporting coal from Enugu. That's not what the textbook tells us. Because the textbook told us that coal, that's why they called it coal city and all that. And coal is no longer, a good hydrocarbon. It's not good for the climate and all that. Chinese people are in Enugu. Trucks. Somebody stumbled there and then, mining that. So poverty is not the absence of resources. I think in his own case, he said that it's a lack of justice. And I think that you can break down that lack of justice to a lot of things. And then it comes down to the way our people think. So a friend of mine narrated how he had somebody, this is in northern Nigeria, he was very, very close to. He was the biggest guy in their village. And so my friend visited him and discovered, of course, they live in Abuja, but then once in a while they go to the village. So they went to the village. And then in the whole of that big community and local government, it's only his house that had electricity. So he asked him, true story. So he asked him, how come you can afford it? You can bring government presence. You yourself, you can actually give these people electricity. You can walk these roads. You can make things better here. You have the ability. You can do it. Why haven't you done it? He said that this guy laughed and called my friend by name and said, if I do this for them, he said, who is going to serve my children? He said that these people served my grandfather. They served my father. They are serving me. If I do this for them, who is going to serve my own children? True story. And see, that mentality is there. So you see that the poverty in Nigeria is artificial, it's man-made. So the justice system, and this is why my colleagues and myself, we've been saying that the problem of Nigeria is not leadership, it's not corruption. And everybody, when you say, people are like, oh, but it's corruption. Look at the president, look at, this and that. The problem of Nigeria is constitutional, because when you sit down with the constitutional lawyers and then they explain that 1999 constitution for you, it is impossible. Relying on that constitution, it is impossible for Nigeria to get out of poverty. The Nigerian poverty is constitutional, is designed. And then you don't need to even go to look at the constitution to see that. Just look at the effects, how they have weaponized. Poverty is weaponized. How can you tell?
It is weaponized.
Hold on. So how can you tell 200 and something million people, and then a couple of individuals, who are not even up to 500, who are not up to 500, and then they're telling you that in the bank accounts of Nigerians, that less than 1% of Nigerians actually have up to $500,000 in their account. So poverty is weaponized. And
Naira, not dollar.
Naira, I beg your pardon. So poverty is weaponized and they use it very well. That's why during elections, they can afford to bring a sachet of Gary, put sugar there, and then put, what else did they put inside that place? Another. And then people are dying, killing themselves for all those things. Then they vote for them. They wait for another 5 years to get another something of Gary and all that too. So that's one perspective on poverty and on wealth, but it's essentially a mind thing, because you can have a lot of cash and still be poor, but you may not have as much cash as the politicians and as all those people who are stealing money, but you can be very wealthy. Because for me, wealth is, and that is to Charles' question, wealth is more than just being rich, but often it starts by being rich. Wealth is, it's a process. It takes time. When we started the financial masterclass, the first time I told you about the four P's. And then I define wealth in the perspective of those 4 P's. There is a purpose, because wealth is not an orphan entity, just something that is existing in the vacuum. There's always a purpose. Okay, so a wealthy person has a very strong sense of purpose. And many times, this purpose is something bigger than that individual, not something that's revolving around you like you're, the center of the universe, but that's a really, really big purpose that is worthy of the person. And then number 2, it's because it's a purpose, there is a plan. There's always a plan. Wealth has a plan. That's why I cannot spend my money anyhow, because part of that vision for wealth, or the purpose for wealth, is responsibility, that I am a steward. Anybody who has been truly wealthy, whether they are religious or not, they've always had that in mind. That's why Andrew Carnegie could say that he spent, like all his life, first half of his life, making all that money, was the wealthiest guy in the world, in his time. And then the second half gave it all away. So you have all these Carnegie libraries and all these whatever funds, things he made from steel are still being, shared with, communities, and then his interest today. So there's a very strong sense of purpose that is beyond that individual. So you're not wealthy. If your wealth is just, okay, Christmas, you go to the village and you show your fleet of cars, and then everybody's coming to your house, and then you're giving them, bottles of beer, and he's wealthy. And then by the time they are going, you dash everybody 5,000 naira, so it goes beyond that. So there's a purpose, there's a plan, okay? And then that plan, I will also share with us today, because I want to re-emphasize that. So that plan has, 4 or 5 steps. The other part of being wealthy is the process, like somebody mentioned. That's a 3rd P. There's a process. because becoming wealthy is not an overnight thing. That's why all these people who do the way that they position network marketing for many of us, like who did it, and then so many of these things that come up in Nigeria, get rich quick thing, it doesn't work. You might get rich quick, whatever, but in terms of wealth, it doesn't work. And then the fourth P has to do with patience. It's got to be patient through the process. And then patience involves delayed gratification, because why must I have that thing today? Why must I have it today? There were things, I went on Jumia to shop for things. And then usually when I'm shopping on Amazon or something, because I found that over the years, I just want to go buy one thing. And then by the time I'm closing my cart on Amazon, and something that I plan to spend $70, I'm closing my cart and it's $800 already. And then those items come, they're things that came from Amazon, I still have around in my house that paid $1,000 and something, and they are there, they haven't been opened for more than 1 year. So delayed gratification is involved in that patience. And then delayed gratification means that, like someone said earlier, that you can be, so someone mentioned earlier that he said that poor people are they are poor because they're trying to imitate the rich, and rich people are rich because they live like they are poor and things like that. So in this journey, in this financial masterclass, we emphasize these 4 P's. If you're here and then you really want to hammer it tomorrow, that's the wrong spirit. This wouldn't work for you. It's a process. That patience also involves learning. Okay, like Esther mentioned at the beginning, it also involves constant learning all around me. If you look at my whatever books, I'm reading, I'm learning, I'm journaling, I'm making notes. In fact, this one is actually my business growth journal. And then if you look around me here, I'm surrounded and over there by hundreds of books and all that, So, and many times I sit on this seat for hours, growing and all that. And wealth is quiet. It's very quiet when you are growing. People don't know. They don't see it. But it's very, very quiet and it's very powerful. So I hope that helps. Okay, at this juncture, so Victor, if you're ready, do you have slides you would like to share, or you just speak to us?
I would just talk and then probably share it on the platform, or send it to you and then you can share it on the platform. Okay. I didn't prepare a slide, but everything is on a Word file.
Okay, so go for it. Let's spotlight you.
Okay, I actually wanted to mention something. My hands were up, but I noticed that the network threw me out, so I don't know if you moved out. But you've already emphasized some of the points. But for some of us here who we would say we've experienced a little bit of mental transformation, it is important that we emphasize the need to numb ourselves to pain and to pleasure. And like Madam Ngozi said, people should know themselves, it talks about self-awareness, the need to recognize situational awareness. I think the man emphasized consumption versus production mindset. And then, of course, most of the people who have been talking, they've used stories from the Bible. So that's spiritual awareness, being led at all times to know what to do given the different situations that we find ourselves. So it's important that we constantly announce these things. If we have to finance them, let's finance them. Let's put our monies where our voices are. And then let's continue to reinforce some of these messages. And of course, which is what the financial intelligence program you're doing does. So I want to appreciate you for that, and for the video and all the contributions that has been received. Again, I also want to thank you for the opportunity to talk about real estate. And a little bit about me and my background. I run a company called UIS Nigeria. interestingly, it's a second generation family run company. And I'm already grooming our children to take over, so it can be in the third generation and hopefully goes beyond generation. We've talked about the need to run businesses beyond the founders to their children and their children. Okay, and we provide integrated equipment solutions for the construction industry. And we've supported several construction projects covering major infrastructure projects. The infrastructure projects here refers to roads and bridges, dams, retaining walls, particularly for erosion-prone areas, particularly the Newmark projects in places like Akwa Ibom, Imo, Benin, and all of that. And then real estate projects, high-rise buildings, mixed use, and I don't know where to categorize church.
Did we lose Victor? Or it's just me?
But they're also part of construction projects. Yeah, for those of us who are interested in gauging the profitability that it's in that sector, to take advantage of them. And I'll also be glad to talk about them. I only have 10 minutes to do that, so I will just run. We are talking about building wealth, and real estate investment starts from savings. Of course, we've talked about the importance of savings. Savings is vital, but investment is also important. Without investing your savings, you end up eating up your savings in the long run, and all your efforts will amount to sheer waste of time. Why is savings important? Because it will serve as your initial equity in real estate development. People want to see that you're putting your money where your voice is. So it's always important to emphasize the need to save and to come in with some form of equity in real estate. So investing helps in generating passive incomes or multiple streams of income. And it's a great strategy for money management and enables people to provide for their needs well into the future. Of course, there are risks associated with every investment, of course. Same thing with the real estate investment. But I tell people investing in real estate is more of an inflation-resistant proof in a way. So real estate can be a profitable investment if done carefully and strategically. So investing in real estate embraces purchasing a land, rental property, or a home, although there are different types of real estate offers that you can use to generate income. Let me just talk about in our environments the four major ones. We call commercial real estate, which includes office buildings, retail spaces, warehouses, and more recently, because we are embracing lifestyles and entertainment, we are seeing ShopRites, cinemas, the hyper cities, and all of that. These are highly profitable businesses, and the business people are willing to pay higher rents in order to be strategically located in a convenient and desirable location. The next is residential rental properties. These the kind of building you see are apartments, single family homes, duplexes, and all of that. And these are things like the Lekki Gardens, the Gulf Estates, and all of that. Investors generate regular income from their rental payments, and property here can appreciate in value over time, providing potential source of capital gains. And then the third is vacation rental properties. We are beginning to see that in our environments here. Apartments that are rented out to tourists for short periods of time. We are seeing the Airbnbs, we are seeing the boutique hotels, we are seeing Lagos people now building all those kind of things, Oba homes and all of that. This provides another steady stream of income, particularly for travel destination. I think now people are moving towards the Akpe area. I'm hearing the Lakaway Golf Resort and all of that, just for tourist purposes. And then we have what we call development opportunities or the last time we talked about land banking. Here is undeveloped or underdeveloped land that has the potential to be transformed into a profitable real estate project. You could either serve as any of the first three that we've talked about, or you could develop it for several other purposes. But then it's a risky business. If you remember when I talked about it the last time. So the one common in our environment is to buy land in a remote area and resell them in a couple of years with very high returns. There are PPP arrangements where private individuals together with the government go into an area to develop. But most often what we see are individuals, companies go into an area, maybe buy a plot, 2 or 3, quickly build, sell, and then do the same thing over and over, or go into a remote area, fence it, and begin to develop. But what we've seen with this model is that the initial cost of setting up what we call the infrastructure, the roads, the drainages, the power lines, all of that is so huge that the investors do not want to make such huge investment when they are not sure they will begin to recover some of their investments. So this has been one of the major challenging points for real estate development. So people are embracing the PPP model, in which the government can come in, do the infrastructure, take some form of equity, or give the land, do the infrastructure, and then the real estate company people come in and do all of that. I have 10 minutes from what I heard, so I will just talk about a quick area where, for me, it's what we are currently doing. I'm happy to share to as many of us, because the goal, it's not to compete, it's to fight poverty and to see that all of us win together. Someone said the sky is so big that they've never seen two birds hit each other in the air. Where I see the major opportunity at the moment in real estate development, I talked about churches. I still struggle to find a place to classify them in the 4 options. In fact, there's another one, real estate equity, where people come together, gather funds to develop, but it's not so strong in our environment. So I just prioritize the top 3 or the top 4.
Which one is
there's
right?
also
Which one is right? The
exactly, that's the real estate investment trusts.
Okay.
So people talk about it. It's not so common in our environments, where a group of persons can contribute funds and go into real estate development, which will also cut across the first 4 things that I've talked about. And then, like I said, churches now are beginning to fall into real estate development. We saw what Trinity Towers did in Lagos, built by ITB. We are seeing Deeper Life now, Winners Chapel, the Dome in Abuja. All of that too are helping to transform urban lifestyle and all of that.
Okay, Victor.
So the opportunity that I want to talk about that we all can quickly cash in, it's student housing. Currently, there are estimated well over 40,000 student housing deficits in the private universities alone, across states like Port Harcourt, where I stay, Enugu, Calabar, Abuja, Ibadan, Lagos. In Port Harcourt, we recently saw the Wigwe University owned by the MD of Access Bank, and everybody's now rushing to buy a property around that area, specifically just to build hostel accommodation. In fact, we are signing concessions with some of the private universities, and they are calling us every day to move in and then build. The interesting part of this is that the financing model is such that you can raise money at the back of the student housing projects. And then once you build, instantly you are beginning to cash out. In fact, the cash flow is there. You can build 1,000 rooms and charge 350K per year. That is instant 350 million guaranteed return annually. You can imagine a 350 million asset you take to the market and you discount it to present value. And some of these concessions are running to 20 years, 30 years, depending on your negotiating abilities and the prototypes of the student housing that you're building in some of these private schools. So, and you know how many financial institutions are ready to take those long-term cash flows because they are renewable almost every 3 years. And these days we are looking at green buildings certified by IFC Edge and supported by institutions like the World Bank, the African Development Bank. Our man is there too, additional. So we've identified partners in these areas that can help us create templates that allow us go deep. And like I said, 40,000 student housing deficits. So it's more than enough for anybody who wants to go into that. So in summary, real estate investment is another opportunity to diversify your investments. Of course, we all should be wise investors. We've been advised not to put all our eggs in one basket, and real estate investment is one way to keep yourself and your family financially afloat. It helps you to reach your financial goals. It's a way to guarantee your financial freedom and grant you financial security.
All right.
So this is where I want to pause.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so what we're going to do, let's take key questions, because what I'm sure is in the mind of everybody. I think that one of the mental blocks that we have, Victor, in real estate investing, while we're waiting for questions. So if you have a question, like a specific thing you would like Victor to touch on before happiness comes up, please type it in the chat. Otherwise, when I'm done speaking right now, you can also raise your hands to speak. So the mental block for real estate investing for most people, like we said the last time, is not just because of the way people's fingers have been burnt in the past, but there's this mental block around the investment. You know, you talked about actually starting with some equity, some initial equity, and then that equity is not moi like they say here. And so how do people kind of negotiate with that mental block? So in your case, from your story, you see, you had a very excellent transition because you had a head start, in the family business. But the mental block is it takes too much money to actually start. So is there something like a metaphor, like something that you used to help people to just kind of overcome that mental block?
Okay, thank you. There's the role of mentors, models, and motivators. Some will say coaches and sponsors. We cannot underestimate the roles these people play. Okay. We can also not underestimate or we cannot overemphasize the importance of starting small and then building up from there. That is why, if you remember the last time I talked about, just work. If you're a person of integrity, you have character, and that character must have been built over time from your willingness to start small. I told you about people buying a plot of land, developing it, selling it, and moving on. These are history. It allows you to make all of the mistake, gaining track record, and all of which is a way to gain the credibility that you need to do the big things. And before you do the big things, you must have history, you must have record. Before the big companies will come and identify with you, you must have a robust financial system, you must have strategic partners. Like I told you, we have someone who is helping us to develop templates that we can leverage on. In fact, we are currently conceptualizing the idea for a world-class facility where Africans and Africans in the diaspora can come back here and not miss what they are currently enjoying out of Nigeria, in a way that they can give birth to their own children here, work, live, die, and their children continue to live in the same environment, enjoying all of the amenities that they currently enjoy out of this country. It's
All
a
right.
complete ecosystem, but it starts from an idea. Of
Okay.
course, we've done something small and people could trust you with big things.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, so I like the idea about starting small, and I also love the idea about using real estate mentors, because the quickest way to get going in anything is to find someone who's done it before and pay the person to teach you. And it's my understanding, Victor, that you're also available to support people who are in that situation here. Is that correct? Is that my understanding, that the people here who want to go into it?
Not a problem. Not a problem.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you. This is really why we're building this community, because to be honest, the next 3 to 5 years will be very, very interesting. And what we are doing here is positioning for it, because you cannot continue with the way things are now into 2024 and beyond. Because it seems, like I said in the most recent post today on LinkedIn, that the world is heading for, like, it might change and all that, but it looks like we're really heading for the 7 lean years. But that time is usually when to position for the inevitable abundance that is coming. And we were just having a conversation before this, with the family, and then we're saying that, and Victor, you can also comment on that. We're actually thinking that from next year, assets will be so cheap, because people are going to be so cash starved that they will begin to offload some of their assets at discount that wouldn't have happened before. I will be very, very.
Thank you, Ogbo. What you just said, it's a critical game changer in real estate, and that is why your savings is important. Cash is king. When you have king, you can buy property from people when they need money at ridiculous rates.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. So, and it's going to happen in 2024, and we need to be able to start positioning for that. Ngozi, your hand is up, please. Could you ask your question briefly? And then Happiness, please, you start getting ready. Happiness, do you have slides? Just indicate. Are you still with us here, or you've dropped off? Happiness, are you still here? Okay, let's go with your question, please.
Thank you, Victor. I just wanted to 2 things. The other time we were talking, the young man, I'm forgetting his name. I said Ato. What was the first name? Pascal, yes. He said something about, I think both of you were the ones talking about the benefits of having these student hostels. So one of the things, because I think I know somebody who had a student hostel, as much as we talk about it, I want to know what happens. Is it the one built within the campus or outside of the campus? And then if it's built in the campus, who manages it?
Okay, it can be both. In the case of the one that I'm talking about, we are building it inside the campus for the schools. That is why I talk about concessioning. They give you the land, you build it, and you take rent for a 20-year period, and after which it belongs to the school.
Very good. That's a fantastic point.
Building it within the school, some of the private schools, they don't allow their students to go outside. It's always a closed environment, so that's the best. Everybody stays inside. You don't want easy access to the facility and all of that for security purposes.
So the management of it, is it done by the concessionaire, or who does the management?
Yeah, you manage everything. They pay the rent to you, you manage it, you maintain it, and everything.
It's fantastic. That's fantastic. Thank you. That looks to me like an immediate, like a doable opportunity. And as we get to know ourselves here, nothing stops those of you who feel very comfortable with others around here, to come together, because I think that, like Victor said, one way to also overcome that capital block, the initial capital block, is coming into relationships and then, using equities, but different people come together and then they're able to do a project and then they multiply that. And Victor, why I validate what you have shared with us tonight and really encourage us to think big is, there is a young man, I'm not sure that guy is up to 40. Dr. Wayne is here as well. I notice you're here. The gentleman that you brought to speak in your event, I have heard about him before this time, and what he's doing in real estate is just incredible, and the amount of money involved is staggering. And how in the world he was able to do that? He started like any of us here. And so somebody was talking about miracles, early. I think when we believe for big things and then we start small and then we are willing, to continue working with it, at some point, things just blow up like it did for that young man. So it's doable. Okay, thank you very much. So if there's no other...
Okay, Mr. Bu, I haven't finished. I wanted to also refer to what Yemi said about when you talk about getting people together, because some of these things even in real estate, we had attempted doing with other people that we met that looked like they were passionate about what they were saying. Let me use the word passionate. And then until we now put in the resources inside it and things started unraveling. So what Yemi pointed out to me was key. There's the character flaw. For instance, the person who got the oil block and got a loan and just did not want to repay the bank the loan and start stealing his own crude oil. Because that's the challenge. For all of these things we are saying, how, it is the character. What Victor is saying, their family control this thing, so they know it. But we yes, as we are here, can we individually look into ourselves, like, if somebody trusts me to say, let's do this thing, how transparent am I going to be in it? Mm-hmm. Or do I now begin to take out of it? Because we set up my family at the when hair was the main thing, the hair products. We set up a hair product factory with the people who brought the idea. They were the ones who also stole from it and destroyed it. Mm-hmm. We lost all the resources. So it's not for want of wanting to join with people. Victor, that's what I'm saying. It is that, like what Yemi was expressing, some people probably went to the bank and the bank looked at them and then said, okay, we'll give this loan, it's a good project. And then the people inside the project, the owners, start stealing it so that they don't pay back the bank.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah.
And they expect this business to go on.
All right.
That's a challenge.
It is. And it's not just real estate. It's actually across all the businesses and, getting reliable partners, getting reliable employees, who tell the truth. Because what I do, the major thing I do for business is actually leading retreats, board retreats, corporate retreats, and also developing leaders. And every time I've worked with an organization, they've seen that the main work is not really in, say, product development. The main work is not in operations and things like that. The main work, number one, the work is 95% people. Because once you get the people right, everything else falls in place. And then your company or your partnership or whatever you're doing can never be better than the people who work in there. And so making sure that you know who you are partnering with. The psychologists tell us that the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. So except people have been washed with the blood, like many of us have, and then we have made up our mind that we will bear fruits that show that we are no longer there, because some people are still, they have one leg here and then one leg, because many times, unfortunately in Nigeria, the most dishonest people are people who go to church and people who go to mosque. It's just very sad. And then once people come to me for business, because they do it a lot, and then the first thing they start saying, hallelujah, praise the Lord.
True.
Once they do that, because it happened, just recently, 3 months ago, and the first thing, meeting you're coming to do business with, the first thing, I'm pastor this. Oh my goodness, my antenna just go up. And so before, it used to be that if somebody is in a mosque or is in a church, that you can be sure, like at least growing up in the 70s. But now the most dangerous, the most difficult people to do business with are people in the church. A friend of mine, two brothers in church, and it happens all the time. He didn't have a company. One didn't have a company, but he said to this other brother, please, this is your company. I have this job coming from so. And the guy said, oh, no, it's not a problem, and whatever. And it was quite a lot of money. Do you know he did the job? And this guy refused to pay him, took the money like today. And so people say Nigerians pray, they pray. You're not praying nothing. There's prayer and there's prayer. I mean, because I keep asking, all these prayers and all that, why are things still the way they do? It means that what we are doing is not prayer. So you have to know, who you are doing business with. You have to know who you're employing. Like I tell companies, the best way to solve your unethical, you'll be amazed, what I see in companies, when I go to consult or to do leadership training, you'll be amazed, because what you're describing is exactly what is happening in many companies. Employees are cannibalizing, killing the business that is feeding them. They're sabotaging the business. There's one of my clients, he came in big into the country, big franchise. You know what killed the business? With tens of millions of dollars. And then we tried, all kinds of things to help him with the theft that was going on. The procurement person would, oh God, what's going on in this country? And everybody will go to church on Sunday. The procurement person
will inflate.
Yeah.
Bring substandard goods.
Not just the substandard. So he would tell the people, so one truck or something is maybe, let me just give a number. I forget the particular number. So maybe they're supposed to do, 5,000 liters or something for them. And then they end up doing like 1,005. And he and then the diesel guy split the rest. As I'm talking to you, the company died. The company is dead. And it's not one, it's not two. So I tell people.
Hello, can I say something, please? Sorry to interrupt you. All of what you said is true, and we see all these things in our everyday business environment. But what has helped us, I'll tell you three things. One, culture, and it starts from leadership. When it's coming from top down, they respect you the more. We've sacked a very competent guy, a go-getter, simply because he had a character flaw. In our organization, they know that no form of competence can compensate for a character flaw. And if you've sacked somebody, others sees it, they would adjust, or they would quietly leave the system. That's one. Two, I talked about the need to have a robust system that eliminates, to some reasonable extent, human interference with all of the things that you do. And these days of technology, most of your things can be driven by technology, where you can monitor. Even with all of these things, they still happen. but it will be minimal. And the ones who do it, they know that if they are caught, they're on their way out. And without some of these system structures, you cannot play at a higher level. And I'm 43 now. If I'm doing a 20-year concession or a 30-year concession, I'll be 73 by then. It means I'm already thinking about my children to take over from me and to run it. And if you share this vision with the people and they see their future in your organization, they will commit to the long-term vision. It's just that sometimes we as leaders, we cannot share our vision. We know we are passionate about our vision, but it only stays with us. We've not been able to engage professionals to help us craft this vision that we can communicate it to the people that we are leading, that they can kill themselves literally to help you achieve that vision because they see their own future in your vision. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, so there are ways to, and I think maybe in one of the master classes, because this is what I spend so much time doing for companies, I tell them, look, forget strategy. We will do strategy, first of all, but we spend the first sessions dealing with the people issues, dealing with character, dealing with mission, dealing with, the people issues. Like we normally say that 97% of business problems are people problems disguising as business problems. So 97% of all the problems you have in your business, they are people problems disguising as business problems. So a lot of people don't give attention to developing the people, to challenging our people, to culture, like you said. They don't give attention to that. And businesses are paying serious prices because of unethical behaviors in the company. Okay, so when we hold retreats and we go through the people part of issues part of it, there are certain questions and things that I ask the organizations, and often they are very shocked because what kills organizations, like 80% of the time, are not lack of skills or lack of knowledge, but it's attitude, character, kind of behaviors. And if you don't know how to call it out and help the people, show the people themselves to deal with it from their within, they don't. But I think that many people, many Nigerian employees are still doing these things because they don't know any better. That's what they inherited. That's what they were doing in their universities because that's how they passed. That's how their parents bought results for them, WAEC results for them. That's how their parents paid someone to sit for JAM for them. That's how they sorted, I hear that's what they call it, sorted lecturers and paid lecturers to pass. And so when they come to work for you, that's all they know. And so if somebody doesn't teach them or show them otherwise, it shows in exactly how, in the way that they work. Because I confronted a young woman, who was in that situation. She came through one of our sessions. This girl, she was 27 at the time. She was already in year three in the university. But after listening to, the session that we had on leadership, on ethics, on character, she came to my office, not very far from here then. She came crying and said she cannot continue with that she could not continue with her school after going through that session because she didn't go with her result. Because I told them, imagine you come out of school and you cheated through school, slept with lecturers, then final exams and all that, you cheated, you bought it and things like that. And then you're carrying that thing. See, that thing you're carrying as your certificate is speaking against you. Every single day is speaking. And it's like, imagine living the rest of your life. You're 30 years old. You're going to be 80 years and 50 years. You're living with forged certificate. See the man who is your president today. See controversy that since, and then he's going to die with that sort of thing. Nobody knows anything at his age. So, and I'm like, look, you guys, you're 25 years, you're 30, you're 35. It's not late to go back. This girl went and took JAM, took WAEC, I so respect her today when I see her. I so respect her. She went, took JAM, took WAEC, did it, with her own hands. After that session, that's how compelling, we make it. And so, now she finished. She's out as a graduate. She did it with her own brain. It's different. So when you have people like that working for you, it's a different thing than anybody who forged, slept with people, got her first class or 2-1, and you employed the person. What different behavior do you expect? And then how do you expect the best from them without confronting those ethical and character issues? And so when I tell organizations, that's what you should spend time doing. Build the people, then the people will build the business. Okay.
Well, how do they, sorry, my question to you, how do you, because right now, what you're describing is what we do in Sunday school on Sundays, trying to get I have a teenage class that are students. So I try to get them to listen. And one of the things that I also said to them is that you can never be confident if you can never be confident for the next task or challenge to tackle it if you were fraudulent in the first one. And then the people who were fraudulent in their school days get into businesses or whatever they're doing, believing that everybody is doing it. Then they have children, and the same way is the value they teach their children. I don't know whether I shared here that a friend of mine closed down the school because parents were pressurizing her on a special center for the exam, for WAEC exams and all that. And she said, we have we have good teachers and all that, we have excellent teachers, and they were insisting on that. So parents, these parents have the mindset that the only way to move forward is to be fraudulent and wicked, literally, to themselves. You're talking about bearing the shame for the left of that. The person has to even first of all know that there is shame in it. So the system we have now does not allow people to have shame. We grew up with values that brought shame. So the key thing I hear here is value. But how would the organizations be able to do that? When I was in charge of human resources, we had serious issues. It was in a bank. We had serious issue of, we will have like 3,000 apply for the positions. We would shortlist sometimes to 100. And even the 100, you put them together, is only Igwebike they know. That is, you must be looking in and asking the other person for answers. Nobody, you won't find up to 5 who would by themselves write the papers.
Okay.
So with that, how do you even get people? How do you now, as an employer of labor, even find those ones to be hired? Okay. And then those smart ones, sorry, let me finish. Those smart ones, there is nothing saying that pressure coming from society and their families in some cases will not make them use their intelligence to now defraud the place. Because that happened to my own sister in her business with all the gadgets they have for CCTVs and all of the things. They still had people form themselves like a gang within the organization.
Okay, I get you.
Systematically stealing. I know. Thank you.
Yeah, I get you. So we have some time constraints. So, but yeah, there are ways we do that. That's why we focus on helping organizations not just to develop a mission, but a mission that connects with the people, because mission statement is not just what people write in companies and whatever. So it can be very transforming, because when we do have a mission workshop, for instance, or culture, organizational culture, it goes back to it hits people really, the way it's structured, it hits people at the root. I have had people, God is witness, I've had people in an organization. It's a secular thing and all that. I've had people cry, weep, come to cry, that they were changed. These were not religious people when we started and things like that, but there are ways, you just make people, you just get people to be accountable to, the accountability and responsibility. And people do not really realize that every choice they make, even that thing they are stealing from their employer, by the time we finish, they see that you are not stealing from your employer, you are stealing from yourself. And the thing catches up. And I tell them stories after stories. There was this particular woman, she was working with one oil company I wouldn't mention, and she did the smart one, and then went and started a business, started a related business and things like that. Built such a fantastic place in Lekki. That business did not last for up to 2 years. And then some of her managers attended, because at that time it was shortly after I left Shell, and some of her managers then attended. They told me what happened. And then if you look at what happened, everything she did to her company was what these people did to her. One of the managers said that some of them have used her business to build houses. He mentioned a particular one who built house in Aja using her business. And then they were not, we haven't had like the fintech innovations that we have today where people can transfer money and things like that. So they were doing cash, even though they could have actually done it differently, like Victor was saying, putting some of his internal controls. And so they will do 600,000 naira with this 1 point something million, whatever, with a customer, and they'll go collect cash and put it. And then, because she was not a business person, because the way you earn money will affect the way you spend it, she didn't put whatever, the business collapsed. I don't even know if it was up to 2 years. So when people now see all these things, because the thing is, people do these things because they don't understand accountability. They do not understand accountability. Forget religion and church and things, even accountability, everything, including these politicians. They do not. And look at all of them, like all the Nigerian politicians. So they commit all this fraud. They send they send greetings to their emails. They do all those things and all that, and they have billions. But then, if you've noticed, for almost all of them, one by one, at certain point, they're out of office, even when they are still in the office. Today, they secretly sneak into France, they sneak into Germany, they sneak into Saudi, Dubai, and all that for treatment of strange sicknesses that you don't know that they are going through. Where are these things coming from? Strange illnesses and all that. So this accountability, the way the world is designed, the universe runs on a perfect accounting system. So many employees and also employers don't understand these things. And so someone has to make them understand. When they now find out that, oh, okay, I'm not actually working for this company. I'm actually working for myself. I'm actually working toward my future, because everything I'm doing to this company is going to happen to. It's not a superstition. It's true. It's going to happen. So when people know that, then we do what we call a values workshop, where we try to understand and sync the collective values of all the people in the organization, and then find the common values. And it's from those common values that we create the mission. From the mission, we now create a culture. And the culture is saying, if we at this stage, okay, let's say right now, we are a $10 million company, and then we want to get to $100 million in another 5 years. The question is, what kind of people must we become in order to be able to achieve that goal? So you workshop it, and it's coming from them. They're the ones saying, oh, for us to be able to perform at that level, to be this and that. And it's usually because people were never given that opportunity to have a say in the business. They just were employed, and then they are being told, do this, do this. So when you now say, okay, what kind of people do we have to become to perform at that level? So everybody collectively says, okay, these are the kind of things that will uphold here in order to perform at that level. And then if we perform at that level, how will that affect us? Our pay, our compensation, our families, and things like that. So everything is written in black and white. So people commit. So, but people issues, if we start talking about people issues, we cannot finish today. But that is something to actually talk about, especially for those of us who run businesses, here, because focus on people. Develop your people will now run the business. But if you're trying to work on the business and ignore the people, they will destroy the business and it won't have any kind of long term. Happiness, I don't know if you're still here. We were looking for you at some point, but at this point...
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I'm very much here.
So I'm looking at our time, and so what I'm actually thinking is that you can start us off next Saturday. We are just a minute or two to 10. Would that be fine if we start off with you and then interact with it next Saturday?
Okay, fine. That would be great.
Okay. 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 Kayode said that they send blessings. Okay, not greetings. So they send blessings to your email. Okay. I have to befriend Babio because I have several emails. And then Sanusi says, Mr. Obo, this is a sickness in the whole of Africa, not only in Nigeria. We as Africans are being brainwashed in a manner that stealing public money or property through procurement process is not considered stealing. This is where we have a problem. The people that steal from public funds are the ones we Africans celebrate when we should shame them. This is very correct. Sanusi, where are you joining us from, by the way? Where are you joining us from?
From Ankara, Turkey.
Okay, yeah, it's a big problem here, and I keep telling people, so people invite me in different places to talk about strategy, and when I go there, I say, look, strategy is very easy. Let's talk about your people, because you can come up with such a fantastic strategy, set up systems and structures and things like that, but it's people that will run this thing. And it is very true, because I've worked with businesses across 13 countries in Africa. And it is exactly the same problem every single place. I actually thought that Ghana was clean until I started working with some companies in Ghana. And it's like, at some point I was telling the Ghanaian companies I was working with, I said, listen, don't learn, because everything Nigeria is doing, I see them doing. So we do have issues. And that's why I think that we need to focus more on building people, recovering the soul, the conscience, the minds of our people. And then, we can grow from there. I think this is a good place to round it off today. But if there's someone who hasn't spoken and you want to, just make one or two closing comments before we say so, then you can do that. Ijoma says, Nigerians have passed on the disease to Ghanaians. Oh yeah, very badly. I used to cry, and I tell Ghanaians, because when I go there, I see all the things that Nigerians are doing. People are beginning to do that over there in Ghana. I said, you people, I used to look at you as like our last hope in this continent, but it's terrible. Everything Nigerians are doing. So for all of us here, when we're talking about building wealth is character. First and foremost is character. Anyhow you define wealth, first of all, is character. And if somebody has it, doesn't have that character, because we have a lot of people who have money and they don't have that kind of character, like the people using their billions to oppress the whole world. They want to take over healthcare. They want to take over food. They want to take over everything, defense, using the money that they have. But that's why people like us, like you and myself in this place, need to rise and take these things we're doing very seriously. Because if all of us here, or in that group, some 400 and something of us, can all rise, pick up these things we're discussing, and we do it properly, then we have a big chance of impacting this continent. Even if it's just those of us here, we decide that we're going to do these things and that we're going to do it properly, we can create a lot of impact. Okay, so let's end it here today. Chizaram says in the chat, please, sir, if Nigeria passed it on to Ghanaians, who then passed it on to Nigerians? So is it inborn? No, I don't believe it is. I don't believe it is inborn. So what happened was, growing up, and then a lot of people here, like Auntie Ngozi and people who are here, who are a little older than me, or at least as old as I am. I'm just a few minutes to 60, to 60 years of age. So I still remember growing up in the early 70s. People told the truth. Nigeria was not like this. The civil servants, like my father and all the people, they worked hard. They really loved their jobs. They did things well. I still remember growing up in the 70s. If you drop your 1 million naira by the side of the road, nobody touched it. In the community I grew up in, nobody will touch it. You will go to wherever you went, and then come back, you find your money there. I grew up seeing people put their wares, whatever they were trading, their merchandise, along the road, unmanned. They just put it on these wooden stools with round whatever. They just put the things, everything that they're selling there, whether it is crayfish or fish, or it is sweets and chewing gum, whatever it was, they put it by the side of a road. People knew the prices. As people would pass, they would pick up what they wanted, drop the money there. The woman will go to farm in the morning, come back and see her money on the tray. If anybody else grew up at that time, and then you can confirm what, just raise your hand.
I can confirm it. I can confirm it.
No, it's not inborn.
Over 1 minute, 1 second. We grew up with values of it's not your own, you don't take it. And if you came, even the civil service, there's a kind of car a certain officer should not drive. There's a kind of way of dressing. There were kind of, you could tell where people belonged in the civil service or in the teaching service, whichever one you're doing, by the way they lived. And there was satisfaction and contentment. There was the value of, we as students, I was a student in the 70s, and as students, my classmates, there were particular kinds of shoes you will wear. We will start ostracizing the person. It means the person has gone off. It's like there are sandals that are expected at first teenagers, or the kind of dressing. It was not in that you're dressing like a 20-something-year-old or a working class lady when you're a teenager in school. It's not. It was abominable amongst us as peers. Not talk of taking whatever it is to your house. The values, we come back to that value we've been talking about, and which is, for me, which is what I want to. I'm very involved with teenagers. To rescue the next generation from, because they did not see it at all. They only saw us in the stealing level. Absolutely. But this, I'm talking about where people value their name more than wealth. Absolutely. So what you're doing with the teenagers is exactly what I'm doing with the businesses, because we cannot make it. My vision is to raise 1,000 unicorns, including my own, that will transform this continent. And I've seen that it's impossible to make that happen except we fix the people and fix the values. Things just started changing. I think it became like, when Shagari came in, it started small. Then by the time Babangida came in, the whole everything died. And then corruption was like officially inaugurated in Nigeria. And then the god of money, the Mammon, was officially enthroned as the god of Nigeria, unfortunately. And then churches, mosques, religious, institutions now joined. And because those ones were supposed to have been like the people holding the pillars, like the last bastion. But now the corruption in the religious places is even worse than the corruption outside. And in school, in primary school, in the 60s, 70s, they used to teach us, we used to have moral instruction, like every day.
And then you learned you must tell the truth. You learned all those things or whatever. Now those things don't even exist in our schools, you know. So that's enough food for thought for this weekend. But when we have these conversations, wealth is very holistic. So this was a very appropriate conversation. Over time, we'll also be talking about family values because it's part of the wealth. If you put money in the hands of your children and you don't give them the values, when you die, it will die. You know, everything will finish within 6 months and they'll sell off everything. So these are conversations that we're going to strengthen. So thank you all very much. And then you all have a very, very good night and then very, very fruitful weekend. And I will see you exactly the same time next Saturday. You can save this same Zoom link because it's the same Zoom link that we will use over and over again. So God bless you all and then have a very good weekend.
Thank you. Sanusi, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very
And
much, sir.
thanks everyone for the
Thank
engaging
you.
section too.
Thank you, sir. God bless you.